The lights in the starport cantina were dim and yellow like old fire. The air smelled of strange drinks and alien sweat. Mixed with the metal smell that came from the space station outside, Hyun-woo stood behind the long wooden bar. His hands moved. Slow and steady as he cleaned the same glass for the third time tonight, his dark eyes watched everything in the mirror behind the bottles. The cantina sat on the edge of Nexus 7, the biggest trading station in this part of the galaxy. Ships came and went every hour, bringing traders, smugglers, and worse kinds of people. Hyun-woo had been working here for 2 years now. He knew every sound, every smell, every type of trouble that walked through those doors tonight. Felt different, though he could not say why, but something in the air made his skin feel tight, the way a storm feels before it hits. The regular customers sat in their usual spots, but they seemed nervous. Their eyes moved too much. They checked their weapons more than normal. At Table 5 sat Crix, a blue-skinned Voltan trader who came in every week. He usually talked loud and laughed louder. Tonight he whispered into his communication device. His 3 eyes kept looking at the door. Hyun-woo made note of this strange behavior. Meant trouble was coming. The corner booth held 2 Zenthi pirates. Their gray skin looked almost white in the cantina lights. They had been drinking for 3 hours, but their glasses stayed full. They were watching, not drinking. Hyun-woo knew this. Trick professional fighters did not get drunk. When they expected a fight near the back wall sat old Gornex, a retired soldier from the Helix Wars. The ancient alien had metal parts where his original limbs used to be. Tonight his metal fingers kept tapping against his leg, a nervous habit Hyun-woo had learned to recognize. Gornex only did this when he sensed danger. At the far corner table, G1 sat with her back to the wall. Her cargo pilot uniform was clean, but her boots were scuffed from walking on many different worlds. She had been coming to the cantina for 6 months now, always quiet, always watching. Hyun-woo respected that. She reminded him of someone he used to know. G1 looked up from her datapad and caught his eye. She gave a small nod toward the door. Hyun-woo understood her pilot training, taught her to read situations just like his old training did. Something was coming, something big. The cantina door opened with its usual hiss. A small group of asteroid miners walked in. Their clothes were dusty and their faces tired. They ordered cheap drinks and sat at the bar. These were honest workers, not the kind who brought trouble, but even they seemed worried tonight. One miner leaned close to Hyun-woo and whispered in. Broken Galactic common big ships coming, he said. Ships with war marks. The man drank his alcohol fast and left with his friends. Their fear was real. Hyun-woo continued his work. His movements looked casual, but his mind was sharp. He counted weapons in the room 17 that he could see, probably more hidden. He mapped escape routes: 2 main exits, 1 service door behind the bar. 3 windows, but they faced the vacuum of space. The sound system played soft music from different worlds. Earth jazz mixed with Arcturian wind songs. The music helped cover conversations and made people feel safe. It was one of many things Hyun-woo had learned to use behind the bar. His hands moved with practiced skill, pouring drinks, washing glasses, organizing bottles. Every movement had purpose. Every action had been done 1,000 times. His body worked while his mind stayed alert. A new customer entered. A tall, thin alien with purple skin and 4 arms. Hyun-woo did not recognize the species, but he recognized the type: military-bearing professional killer. The alien ordered water and sat where he could watch the entire room. G1 finished her drink and walked to the bar. She moved like a dancer, but Hyun-woo saw the pilot training in her steps, light on her feet, ready to move fast. She leaned against the bar and spoke quietly. Weather looks bad tonight, she said, using their code for danger coming. Hyun-woo nodded and poured her another drink. His fingers brushed hers as he passed the glass. A quick touch, that said he understood. The cantina grew quieter as the night went on. Conversations became whispers. Laughter stopped completely. The music seemed louder because everything else was so quiet. Hyun-woo felt the tension building like pressure in a sealed container. He moved to check the storage room behind the bar. Everything looked normal, but he touched a hidden panel. The small screen showed him camera views of the space station outside. Big ships were docking, military ships with markings. He recognized Kethrak warships. The Kethrak were the galaxy's most feared warriors. They stood 8 feet tall with natural armor and claws that could cut through steel. Their empire stretched across 50 systems, built on conquest and fear. Human colonies had fallen to their attacks. Most humans ran when they heard Kethrak ships were coming. Hyun Wu was not most humans. He returned to the bar and continued working. His face showed nothing, but inside he was preparing 2 years of waiting, too. Years of playing the quiet bartender who just wanted to serve drinks and avoid trouble tonight. That act would end. The door opened again. 6 figures in combat armor stepped inside the cantina. Went completely silent. Everyone recognized Kethrak. Elite soldiers, even with their helmets on. They were massive even by Kethrak standards. Their armor was black with red markings that showed many victories. The lead soldier removed his helmet, revealing a scarred face and yellow eyes. He looked around the cantina like a predator choosing prey. His gaze stopped on Haiyan Wu, and he smiled, showing sharp teeth. Haiyan Wu kept cleaning glasses. His hands did not shake. His breathing did not change. To everyone watching, he looked like a scared human trying to stay invisible. This was exactly what he wanted them to think. The Kethrak soldiers spread out through the cantina, taking positions that blocked all exits. They moved like a unit, like soldiers who had fought together for years. Their weapons stayed holstered, but their message was clear: nobody leaves until we say soon. By one, the other customers found reasons to leave. They paid their bills quickly and walked out without looking back. Soon only Haiyan Wu and the 6 Kethrak remained. The cantina felt huge and empty. The lead soldier approached the bar. His footsteps were heavy on the metal floor. Each step echoed in the quiet room. He sat on a stool that creaked under his weight and stared at Haiyan Wu with those yellow eyes. Human, he said in a voice like grinding metal, "You serve strongest drink." The words were more command than request. Haiyan Wu nodded and reached for a bottle. His movements were slow and careful, exactly what a frightened bartender would do as he poured the drink. Haiyan Wu let his mind wander to memories of another time, another place where he had faced impossible odds. Back when he wore a different uniform, back when people called him Captain Park, back when the galaxy knew his name and feared it. But that was the past. Tonight he was just Haiyan Wu, the quiet bartender who minded his own business. The man who had never hurt anyone, who just wanted to make an honest living serving drinks to travelers. At least that was what everyone thought, and he was very happy to let them keep thinking that. The Kethrak leader took the drink from Haiyan Wu without saying thank you. His yellow eyes never left the human's face as he drank. The alcohol was strong enough to burn most throats, but the alien showed no reaction. His scarred face remained cold. And watching behind him, the other 5 soldiers removed their helmets one by one. Each face told stories of violence and victory. Burn scars crossed their features like maps of old battles. Their eyes held the look of predators who had never known fear or defeat. The second soldier was even bigger than the leader. His left eye was gone, replaced by a metal implant that glowed red in the dim light. 3 parallel scars ran down his right cheek, made by claws in some long ago fight. He grinned at Haiyan Wu, showing teeth filed to sharp points. The third soldier was female, her purple skin darker than the others. A network of ritual scars covered her arms, marking kills in the traditional Kethrak way. Each scar represented a worthy enemy defeated. In single combat, Haiyan Wu counted over 30 marks. The fourth soldier carried himself differently, less aggressive but more dangerous. His movements were precise, calculated, like a machine built for killing. His armor bore the symbols of the Kethrak Special Forces, the elite within the elite. These were not ordinary soldiers. The 5th soldier was younger, but his eyes were just as cold. A recent promotion to the elite squad. If Haiyan Wu read the armor markings correctly, the young one had something to prove, which made him more unpredictable than the veterans. The 6th soldier stood near the door, his position chosen to prevent anyone from leaving. His role was simple but important. No witnesses would walk away from whatever they planned to do here tonight. The leader finished his drink and gestured for another. Strong, he said, but his voice carried disappointment. Like everything else from humans, weak when it matters. The other soldiers laughed at this, a harsh sound like metal scraping. Stone. Haiyan Wu poured another drink, his hands steady. Despite the insults, he had heard worse than this many times in many places. The words bounced off him like rain on armor, but he filed away every detail about these soldiers for later use. The female soldier spoke up in the Kethrak language. Her words were sharp and angry. The others responded with more laughter. Haiyan Wu understood enough of their tongue to know they were discussing human weakness, their favorite topic. "Tell me, human," the leader said, switching back to Galactic common. "What is your name?" The question seemed casual, but Haiyan Wu heard the threat underneath. Everything about these soldiers suggested they were here for a specific purpose. Hyun Woo, he answered simply, no family. Name, no rank, no history, just a bartender with a common name, the kind of human nobody would remember or miss. The big soldier with the metal eye leaned forward. Hyun Woo, he repeated slowly, tasting each syllable, such a small name for such a small creature. Do you know who we are, human? Do you know what we have done? Hyun Woo kept his eyes down like a frightened civilian would. I serve drinks, he said quietly. I do not ask questions about customers' business. This was the perfect response, exactly what they expected from a weak human trying to avoid trouble. The young soldier stood up and began walking around the cantina. His boots rang against the floor with each step. He examined everything like he was planning something, checking corners, testing furniture, looking for something specific. G1 remained in her corner booth. She appeared to be reading her data pad, but Hyun Woo caught her watching the soldiers in the reflection of her screen. Her pilot training served her well. She knew how to observe without being obvious about it. The leader introduced himself as Commander Vorth of the 53rd Destroyer Squadron. The name meant nothing to most people, but Hyun Woo knew it well. This was the unit responsible for the massacre at Kepler Colony. 6,000 human civilians dead in one night. We are here on official business, Vorth continued. His voice carried the authority of someone used to being obeyed. We seek information about human military movements in this sector. The cantina grew even quieter, if that was possible. Hyun Woo continued polishing glasses. I do not know anything about military matters, he said. I just serve drinks to travelers. The response was honest in its way. He was not lying about serving drinks. He just left out some important details about his other activities. The soldier with the ritual scars stood and approached the bar. She moved like a dancer, but Hyun Woo recognized the combat training underneath. Her steps were balanced, ready to explode into violence at any moment. Her hand rested casually near her weapon. You have been here 2 years, she said. It was not a question, but a statement. They had done their research. They knew more about his cover identity than he was comfortable with. How much more did they know in 2 years? You must have heard things, she continued. Travelers talk. When they drink, they share secrets they should not share. What have you heard about human fleet movements? Nothing useful, Hyun Woo replied. I hear many stories. Most are lies, some are drunk talk, none are military secrets. This was also true. The real intelligence he gathered came through other channels, not from casual bar conversation. The young soldier finished his circuit of the cantina and returned to the group. He whispered something to Vorth in their native language. The commander's expression grew more interested. Whatever the young one had found pleased him. The metal-eyed soldier pulled out a small device and began scanning the room. The screen showed energy signatures, hidden electronics, anything that might be recording their conversation. Hyun Woo watched without seeming to. His own hidden systems were shielded, but he wondered what else they might find interesting. Vorth said after receiving the scan results, this establishment has more security than most military bases. Hidden cameras, blast shields, reinforced walls. Why would a simple bartender need such protection? Hyun Woo shrugged. The previous owner installed those systems. He said this is a rough neighborhood. Many fights happen here. The shields protect the structure from damage. It was a reasonable explanation, one that any sensible business owner might give, but the Kethrak were not convinced. Their warrior instincts told them something was wrong. They could sense danger even if they could not identify its source. The problem was they had become arrogant. Years of easy victories had made them careless. The female soldier returned to her seat but kept watching. Hyun Woo, her ritual scars seemed to glow in the cantina. Lighting each mark reminded him of the innocent people these monsters had killed. The children who would never grow up because of Kethrak cruelty. G1 stood up and walked to the refresher facility. Her movement gave her a chance to pass close to the bar. As she went by, she brushed against Hyun Woo's shoulder. A brief contact that passed a small message device hidden in her palm was intelligence data that would be needed soon. The soldiers watched her go, but dismissed her as unimportant. A human female in pilot clothing posed no threat to elite Kethrak warriors. This was another mistake in a night that would be full of them. Their arrogance blinded them to danger. Vorth ordered drinks for all his soldiers, the strongest alcohol the cantina served. They were settling in for a long conversation. This meant their real business had not started yet. They were still in the preparation phase. As Hyun Woo served each drink, he memorized details about every soldier, their weapons, their armor, their fighting stances. Even their drinking habits could provide useful information in the right circumstances. Knowledge was power, and power would be needed tonight. The Kethrak began talking among themselves, switching between their language and Galactic common. They discussed recent victories, battles one planet's conquered. The casual way they talked about genocide made Hyan Wu's jaw clench, but his face remained neutral outside the cantina. The space station continued its normal operations. Ships docked and departed. Traders conducted business. Families lived their lives. None of them knew that 6 of the galaxy's most dangerous killers sat drinking in a small bar, planning their next atrocity. But the night was still young, and plans had a way of changing, especially when the enemy was not what they appeared to be. The Kethrak thought they were dealing with a frightened human bartender. They had no idea how wrong they were about to discover that mistake was. The alcohol began to loosen the Kethrak tongues, though it did not slow their reflexes. These were professional soldiers who knew how to drink without becoming helpless. But it did make them more talkative and far more cruel in their choice of Wordsworth raised his glass in a mock toast to human courage. He said with a voice full of sarcasm, "So great that your colonies surrender before we even land." The other soldiers laughed and drank their agreement. The sound echoed through the empty cantina like broken glass. The big soldier with the metal eye stood up and began acting out a scene. His movements were exaggerated, theatrical, designed to be insulting. "Look, brothers," he called out, "I am a human soldier." He made his voice high and shaking. "I see Kethrak ships and I run away crying for my mother." The performance drew more laughter from his companions. Hyan Wu continued cleaning the same spot on the bar over and over. His face showed nothing, but his grip on the cloth grew slightly tighter. The small change would have been invisible to most observers. The female soldier joined the mockery. She described in detail how human settlements looked when the Kethrak arrived. The panic in the streets, she said. The way they abandoned their young and old to save themselves. Such brave warriors, these humans. The sarcasm dripped from every word like poison. Wan returned from the refresher facility and resumed her seat in the corner booth. Her face was pale but controlled. She had heard enough of the conversation to understand what kind of monsters they were dealing with. Her hand moved closer to the weapon hidden under her jacket. The young Kethrak soldier was eager to impress his commanders. He stood up and pulled out a small device that projected holographic images. "These are recordings from our last raid," he announced proudly. 300 humans killed in less than an hour. The holograms showed scenes of destruction. Buildings burning, civilians running in terror. Kethrak soldiers cutting down anyone who could not escape fast enough. The images were meant to terrorize, but they had a different effect on Hyan Wu. His calm exterior hid a growing fire inside. "Watch this part," the young soldier said with excitement. "A human tries to protect his offspring, but the child is weak like all humans." The hologram showed a Kethrak warrior ending both lives with casual efficiency. The soldier rewound the scene to watch it again. Hyan Wu set down his cleaning cloth and looked directly at the projection. His expression remained neutral, but something changed in his eyes, a coldness that had not been there before. Ji-Won noticed the change and tensed in her seat. She recognized that look from somewhere. Vorth caught the subtle shift as well. His warrior instincts were still sharp despite the alcohol. "You find our recordings interesting, Bartender?" he asked. There was a new edge to his voice, a hint of suspicion that had not been there before. Hyan Wu met his gaze calmly. "I have seen death before," he said simply. "This sector has many conflicts. Travelers bring stories." The response was perfect for his cover, but it carried undertones that made the Kethrak leader study him more carefully. The soldier with the ritual scars decided to test the human further. She moved closer to the bar and began describing her personal kills. Each scar on her arm represented a life taken. She explained the ritual required single combat against worthy opponents, but humans are never worthy, she continued. They die too easily, no honor in killing them. The scars from human kills are smaller. See, she pointed to several tiny marks, almost invisible among the larger ones. These represent 50 human deaths, not even worth proper scars. The metal-eyed soldier laughed and added his own stories. He specialized in psychological warfare. He explained breaking human morale before the fighting even began. Humans were so weak mentally that the right words could make entire Units surrender without firing a shot. You seem calm for a human bartender. Vorth observed. Most of your kind show fear when they hear such stories. But you just stand there cleaning glasses like nothing matters. Perhaps you are braver than most, or perhaps you are something else entirely. The question hung in the air like smoke from a fire. Hyun Woo continued his work without responding. His silence could be interpreted as fear or defiance. Vorth was fishing, trying to discover if his suspicions had foundation. The young soldier grew impatient with the subtle games. He wanted more direct action. Show us fear, human, he demanded. Stand up straight and beg for your life like the others. Do it will amuse us. The other soldiers encouraged this idea. With nods and grunts, Hyun Woo looked up from his work. I am just a bartender, he said quietly. I have no reason to fear customers who pay for their drinks. His calm response frustrated the young soldier, who had expected cowering and pleading. The female soldier slammed her fist on the bar, making the bottles jump. You will show respect, she snarled. We are Kethrak elite. You are nothing but a weak human insect. Her ritual scars seemed to darken with anger. Hyun Woo nodded politely. Of course, he said. You are customers in my establishment. I treat all customers with respect, regardless of species. This was exactly the wrong thing to say. The Kethrak interpreted politeness as mockery. Vorth stood up slowly, his full height casting a shadow over the bar. There is something wrong here, he said. His voice carried the authority of command. You are too calm, too controlled. Normal humans shake when they see us. The big soldier moved to flank the bar, while the others spread out in a practiced formation. They had decided that this human was more than he appeared. The game of words was ending. The time for action was approaching. One tensed in her corner booth. Her pilot training told her to run, but something else kept her in place. Perhaps it was curiosity about what would happen next, or perhaps she recognized something in Hyun Woo that the Kethrak had mistell. The maid bartender, Vorth said, leaning across the bar until his scarred face was inches from Hyun Woo's. What did you do before you came here? What is your story? The question was no longer casual conversation. It was an interrogation. Hyun Woo met his gaze without flinching. I served drinks somewhere else before here, he said simply. Different station, same work, nothing interesting. His refusal to elaborate made Vorth more suspicious. The young soldier grew tired of talking and reached across the bar to grab Hyun Woo's shirt. He wanted to drag the human forward to show his dominance, but his hand stopped inches from its target. Hyun Woo had not moved, but something in his posture suggested that touching him would be a mistake. You think you can threaten us? The soldier snarled. You think your security systems will protect you? We have destroyed military bases with better defenses than this place. His boast was true, but it revealed how much they knew about the cantina's hidden protections. Hyun Woo straightened up to his full height. He was still smaller than any of the Kethrak, but something about his bearing changed. The subservient bartender began to fade, replaced by something harder and more dangerous. I do not threaten anyone, he said calmly. I serve drinks. That is all I have ever claimed to do. But his tone carried new weight, as if each word had been chosen with care. The Kethrak felt the change, even if they could not identify it. Their warrior instincts told them that the balance in the room had shifted. The prey they thought they had cornered might be something else entirely. Vorth made a decision that would change everything. He reached out and grabbed Hyun Woo's wrist, his claws digging into human flesh. Show me weakness, he demanded. Show me what humans really are. His grip tightened, expecting the man to cry out in pain, but Hyun Woo did not cry out. He looked down at the clawed hand on his wrist, then back up at Vorth. His expression was still calm, but now it carried something new, something that made G1 sit forward and the other Kethrak pause their advances. That your best grip? Hyun Woo asked quietly. The question hung in the air for 3 heartbeats. Then Hyun Woo moved his free hand beneath the bar and pressed a hidden switch. The response was immediate and terrifying. Heavy blast doors slammed down over every entrance with sounds like thunder. Metal barriers covered the windows, sealing them in complete isolation. Emergency lighting bathed the cantina in red, making everything look like a scene from hell. The normal sounds of the space station disappeared, replaced by the hum of the security systems powering up. Multiple locks engaged with mechanical precision until the room became a fortress. Vorth released Hyun Woo's wrist and stepped back, his warrior instincts finally recognizing real danger. The 6 elite soldiers moved into defensive positions without needing orders. Their weapons appeared in their hands as if by magic. Trained Reflexes taking over. What have you done? Human Vorth demanded, but his voice carried less authority now. The confident commander was gone, replaced by a soldier who realized he might have walked into a trap. Hyan Wu stepped out from behind the bar, his movements completely different now. The nervous bartender was gone. Every step showed military training, every gesture spoke of violence barely held in check. His entire body language had transformed. I have closed my establishment for the evening, he said calmly. Private party only. The words were casual but carried implications that made the Kethrak spread out further. They understood tactics and recognized a prepared position when they saw one. The young soldier raised his weapon and aimed at Hyan Wu. You will open those doors immediately, he shouted, or we will kill you and find another way out. His threat sounded hollow even to himself. The blast doors were military-grade, designed to withstand heavy weapons. Hyan Wu ignored the weapon pointed at him and looked at Ji-won. She had stood up and was checking her own equipment. Her pilot uniform somehow looked more like military gear. Now her casual movements revealed combat training. Ji-won, he said, and she nodded in response. Agent Ji-won, Park Intelligence Division, 7th Fleet. Her cover identity fell away like a discarded mask, revealing a trained operative who had been watching and waiting. The Kethrak realized they had been deceived, but they still believed in their superior numbers and training. 6 elite warriors against 1 human and a pilot should be easy, even in a confined space. Their arrogance ran too deep to be easily shaken. Captain Hyan Wu, Park Ji-won announced for the Kethrak benefit, former commander of the Human Special Operations Division. 3 years presumed killed in action during the Battle of Titan Ridge. The words hit the aliens like physical blows. Hyan Wu removed his bartender apron, revealing tactical gear underneath. The clothing had hidden armor plating, weapon attachments, and equipment that no civilian should possess. He had been prepared for this moment for a very long time. The big soldier with the metal eye took a step backward. He knew that name. Every Kethrak warrior had heard stories of the human who had turned their victories into defeats. The ghost who struck from shadows and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. You died at Titan Ridge, Vorth said, but his voice shook slightly. We have your death certificate. Your unit was wiped out to the last soldier. His words tried to deny what his eyes were telling him. Reports of my death were greatly exaggerated. Hyan Wu replied. The smile that crossed his face was not pleasant. I had work to finish, work that required me to disappear for a while. But the work is done now. The female soldier with ritual scars raised her weapon. This is impossible, she snarled. Humans do not lay traps for Kethrak. We are the hunters, you are the prey. Her words carried desperation as her worldview began to crack. Hyan Wu walked toward the center of the cantina, putting himself in the open. His confidence seemed insane to the aliens. Why would he make himself an easier target? But his movements suggested he had reasons they could not understand. For 2 years I have served drinks to travelers, he said conversationally. I have listened to stories, watched the news, followed the reports of Kethrak victories. Some interesting patterns emerged if you knew what to look for. Young soldier fired his weapon at Hyan Wu, but the human was no longer where the shot had been aimed. He had moved with inhuman speed for such a large man. The energy blast scorched empty air while Hyan Wu appeared beside a table. Too slow, Hyan Wu observed mildly. Your training focuses on brute force. You expect enemies to stand still and fight honorably. Humans learned long ago that honor is a luxury. We cannot afford. The lesson came with a demonstration. Ji-won had drawn her sidearm and taken position behind an overturned table. Her pilot training included combat skills that most people never suspected. She provided covering fire while Hyan Wu moved, forcing the Kethrak to split their attention. The metal-eyed soldier tried to coordinate his team, but the confined space worked against them. They were used to open battlefields where their size and strength gave clear advantages. The cantina negated those benefits and created new problems. You know who I am, Hyan Wu said as he reached cover behind the bar. Your intelligence files have my record. Kepler Station, Vega Colony, the raids on supply convoys. I was there for all of them. Your victories were not as complete as you reported. Vorth felt ice in his stomach. The 53rd Destroyer Squadron had indeed suffered mysterious losses. Sabotage that could not be explained, equipment failures that seemed too convenient, supply shortages that appeared from nowhere. The barricades I built, the data I collected, the patterns I mapped. Hyan Wu continued. 2 years of work to understand your tactics, your strengths, your weaknesses. Every drink I served brought new intelligence. Every conversation revealed your secrets. The soldiers began to realize the scope of their predicament. This was not a chance encounter or a simple trap. This human had been hunting them, specifically studying them, planning for this exact moment. The bartender had been bait in a larger game. The female soldier screamed in rage and charged directly at Hyun-woo. Her ritual scars seemed to glow with fury as she abandoned tactics for pure aggression. It was exactly what he had expected from Kethrak psychology. Hyun-woo moved like water flowing around obstacles. Her claws swept through empty air while he appeared beside her with something sharp in his hand. The knife was small and human-made, but it found gaps in alien armor with surgical precision. She staggered and fell, her blood dark against the cantina floor. The other soldiers stared in shock. Elite Kethrak warriors did not die to human civilians with small knives. It was impossible according to everything they believed, but beliefs had power only when they matched reality. Tonight reality was teaching them that humans were not the weak prey they had assumed. The galaxy was about to learn the same lesson. One down, Hyun-woo said quietly as he faced the remaining 5 soldiers. His voice carried no emotion, just professional assessment. 5 to go. The cantina lights flickered as the ventilation system kicked in circulation. The real fight was about to begin, and the Kethrak were starting to understand that they might not survive it. Their elite training had not prepared them for an enemy who thought like they did, but fought like something else entirely, something more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The death of their comrade shattered the Kethrak confidence, but also unleashed their fury. They had never lost a soldier to a human in single combat. The impossible had become real, and it demanded blood in return. Their coordinated advance became a savage charge. The big soldier with the metal eye led the attack, his enhanced vision tracking Hyun-woo through the red emergency lighting. His massive frame should have caught the human easily in the confined space, but Hyun-woo was no longer where logic said he should. Beatty Cantina had been designed for this moment. Every table, every chair, every fixture had been placed with purpose. Hyun-woo flowed through the obstacles like he had rehearsed the choreography 1,000 times. His movements turned furniture into weapons and barriers into advantages. A heavy chair flew through the air, catching the metal-eyed soldier across his scarred face. The impact staggered him just long enough for Hyun-woo to disappear behind the bar. The alien roared in frustration and charged forward only to find empty space. The young soldier tried to provide covering fire, but his shots struck bottles and mirrors instead of flesh. Broken glass filled the air like deadly snow while alcohol flames spread across the bar. The cantina was becoming a maze of fire and shadows. Hyun-woo emerged from unexpected angles, striking fast and vanishing before retaliation could find him. His knife work was surgical, each cut designed to disable rather than kill. Immediately, the Kethrak were being taken apart piece by piece. Ji-won provided perfect support from her position. Her pilot reflexes let her track multiple targets, while her weapon found gaps in armor that should have been impossible to hit. The aliens had never faced such precise marksmanship in close quarters. The soldier guarding the door abandoned his position to join the hunt. This gave Ji-won the opening she needed to advance. Her movement drew attention away from Hyun-woo, creating the distraction he required for his next strike. Vorth tried to restore order to his team, but the battle had become chaos. The cantina was full of smoke and flickering flames. Vision was limited and sounds echoed strangely off the walls. His elite soldiers were fighting blind against an enemy who knew every shadowy table exploded as the young soldier put too much power into his weapon. The blast revealed Hyun-woo crouched behind what had been cover. The human should have been exposed, vulnerable to coordinated fire, but he was already moving before the smoke cleared. The remaining Kethrak realized their weapons were too powerful for the confined space. Every missed shot did more damage to their fighting environment. Heavy energy blasts created new obstacles while small arms fire passed through walls they needed for cover. Hyun-woo had planned for this too. His knife was joined by other tools pulled from hidden places around the cantina. A broken bottle became a slashing weapon. A piece of twisted metal became a throwing blade. Everything in the room served his purpose. The metal-eyed soldier cornered him near the back wall, his massive hands reaching out to crush human bones. But Hyun-woo dropped low and swept the alien's legs. The giant crashed to the floor hard enough to crack the deck. Plating B for the soldier could recover. Hyun-woo was on him, The knife found the gap where helmet met neck armor and the big alien went still. His metal eye continued to glow red for several seconds before fading to black. 2 down, 4 to go. Hyun Woo announced. His voice carried no strain despite the violence. He might have been commenting on the weather. The casual tone was more terrifying than any battle cry could have been. The young soldier broke under the pressure and screamed in rage. He abandoned all pretense of tactics and charged straight at the human. His weapon fired continuously, filling the air with deadly energy, but rage made him predictable. Hyun Woo stepped aside at the last moment and guided the alien's momentum into a support pillar. The impact was tremendous and the young soldier crumpled to the ground, his weapon spinning away across the floor. His breathing was shallow and Labor G1 moved to secure the fallen weapon while keeping watch for the remaining enemies. Her pilot training had not prepared her for ground combat, but her intelligence background filled the gaps. She was learning to fight like a soldier, the soldier who had been guarding the door tried to flank around behind Hyun Woo but found himself facing Ji-won instead. Her weapon spoke twice and he staggered backward, his armor cracked and smoking. He was still alive but no longer a threat. Vorth looked around at his decimated unit. 3 of his elite soldiers were down and the 4th was wounded. Only he remained at full fighting strength. The human bartender had destroyed the most feared squad in the Kethrak military. This is impossible, he said aloud, his voice carrying disbelief. Humans do not fight like this. You are weak, slow, stupid. You cannot defeat Kethrak elite. His words tried to rebuild a worldview that was crashing down. Hyun Woo studied him with calm eyes. You believe that because it is what you need to believe, he said. The truth is harder to accept. Humans are not stronger or faster or smarter, but we are something else. Something you never understood. What? The commander asked. Despite himself, the question came from genuine confusion. His military training had no answer for what he was witnessing. Adaptive Hyun Woo replied simply, we learn from every defeat, every victory, every mistake. We change our tactics, our weapons, our entire approach until we find something that works. You fight the same way you did 1,000 years ago. The observation was accurate and devastating. Kethrak military doctrine had remained unchanged for centuries. Why alter? Perfection was their motto, but perfection assumed the enemy would never evolve. Vorth raised his weapon for a final desperate attack, but found his target was no longer there. Hyun Woo had moved again, using the conversation as distraction. The human appeared at his side, moving too fast for alien reflexes. The knife found its mark and the great commander of the 53rd Destroyer Squadron fell to his knees. His weapon clattered across the floor as strength left his limbs. The most feared Kethrak unit had been destroyed by 2 humans in a bar. Hyun Woo stood over the fallen alien leader, his breathing barely elevated despite the combat. The cantina was a wreck of broken furniture and scorch marks, but the battle was won. The emergency lighting cast everything in red, like a scene from nightmares. Ji-won emerged from cover and surveyed the carnage. 6 elite soldiers reduced to casualties in less than 10 minutes. It was a demonstration of human capability that would shock the galaxy when the recordings were released. As it finished, she asked, though she already knew the answer. The Kethrak were either dead or dying. The threat had been eliminated with efficiency that impressed even her intelligence training. For now, Hyun Woo replied. He began checking each fallen soldier to ensure they posed no further danger. The knife disappeared back into concealment as the bartender persona briefly returned. But this is just the beginning. The real work would start when the blast doors opened and the galaxy learned what had happened here. Tonight, 6 monsters had died. But more importantly, tonight, the myth of Kethrak invincibility had died with them. The message would spread to every world, every species, every military force. Humans were not the easy prey that everyone believed. They were something far more dangerous. When pushed to their limits, something that learned from every defeat and came back stronger, something that turned bartenders into hunters and cantinas into traps, something that would not be underestimated again. The cantina fell silent except for the hum of ventilation systems clearing smoke from the air. Hyun Woo moved through the wreckage, checking each fallen Kethrak with professional thoroughness. His knife remained ready, though none of the aliens showed signs of life. Vorth still breathed, but barely. The great commander who had terrorized human colonies was dying on the floor of a bar. His yellow eyes found Hyun Woo and held a mixture of confusion and grudging respect. How he whispered the word barely audible. How did one human destroy my entire unit? The question came from a warrior who had never known defeat and could not understand this. Final lesson. Hyun Woo knelt beside the dying alien and spoke quietly. You made the same mistake. Everyone makes, he said. You saw what you expected to see, a weak human bartender trying to hide from the galaxy. But I was never hiding, I was hunting. The commander tried to speak again, but death claimed him before the words could form. His eyes went dark, and the most feared Kethrak unit in the galaxy was no more. The silence that followed felt heavy with significance. Wan secured her weapon and began examining the recording equipment hidden throughout the cantina. Every moment of the battle had been captured from multiple angles. The galaxy would see exactly how 6 elite soldiers had fallen to human tactics. Blast doors remained sealed, but Hyun Woo knew that reinforcements were already on the way. His actions would have triggered automatic alerts to both human and station security. The next phase of the plan was beginning. He walked to a hidden panel behind the bar and activated a communication array that had been installed during the cantina's construction. The signal would reach human command within minutes, carrying data that had taken 2 years to collect. Admiral Chun, this is Ghost Actual. He spoke into the transmitter using codes that had been retired 3 years ago. Mission accomplished. Package delivered. All targets neutralized. The words were brief, but they carried enormous implications. Ji-won joined him at the communication station, her intelligence training taking over from combat mode. Sir, the recordings are ready for broadcast, she reported. The psychological impact on alien forces will be significant when they see Kethrak elite defeated. Hyun Woo nodded and began uploading files that contained far more than just battle footage. 2 years of intelligence gathering had revealed Kethrak weaknesses, vulnerabilities in their tactics, and blind spots in their strategy. The galaxy was about to learn how to fight back. The communication came to life with Admiral Chun's voice. Ghost Actual, good to hear from you again, she said, though her tone was strictly professional. Package received and ready for distribution. The Admiral's words confirmed that the plan was moving forward. Outside the cantina, alarms began to sound as station security responded to the emergency. The blast doors would open soon and the carefully constructed cover story would begin. Its unraveling had been planned as meticulously as everything else. Hyun Woo removed his tactical gear and put the bartender apron back on. The transformation was remarkable as the deadly soldier disappeared and the quiet civilian returned, but now everyone would know the truth behind the disguise. The recording system shut down automatically as programmed. The evidence of what had happened would be distributed through channels that no government could stop or suppress. Every species in the galaxy would see how humans really fought when pushed too far. Wan activated her own hidden equipment, sending intelligence reports to contacts throughout human space. The pilot cover had been useful, but her real mission as an intelligence operative was finally complete. The data she had gathered would save thousands of lives. The blast doors began to rise with mechanical groans. Station security forces rushed in expecting to find a massacre. They found exactly that, but not the kind they had anticipated. 6 Kethrak elite soldiers lay dead, while 2 humans stood unharmed among the wreckage. Hyun Woo raised his hands in surrender as security officers surrounded him. His face showed the appropriate shock and fear that a civilian would display after witnessing such violence. The act was perfect and completely believable. They just started fighting, he said in a shaking voice, pointing at the alien bodies. I tried to hide behind the bar when it was over. They were all dead. I do not know what happened. His performance convinced everyone present. Wan supported his story, adding details about how terrified they had both been. The security team accepted the explanation that the Kethrak had killed each other in some kind of internal dispute. Alien psychology was mysterious to most people. The official report would list the deaths as resulting from a dispute between Kethrak soldiers that escalated to violence. The human witnesses had been traumatized but unharmed. The cantina would need extensive repairs before reopening, but the real story was already spreading through secure channels. Human military commanders received detailed analysis of Kethrak weaknesses. Intelligence agencies got comprehensive files on alien tactics. Resistance groups learned how to turn superior numbers against invading forces. Recordings began broadcasting 12 hours later through networks that reached every inhabited world the footage showed. Humans defeating aliens who had seemed invincible, the psychological impact was immediate and profound on human colonies that HFY